Olivia smirked as she positioned the pile of legal paperwork in front of me while I sat in my own office. That smirk, today, was a reminder of the person I fell in love with years ago, the one who gave me hope that she was on my side. "Congratulations. You're officially unemployed," she murmured, her voice sweet, with a knife to my throat. Sweet, saturated with phony pity. The business you created is now mine. When I heard Liam's name, I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. I tilted my head slightly and caught his arrogant demeanor as he stood next to Olivia, arms folded like a victorious warlord looking over the remains of his most recent conquest. Liam used to be my best friend, my business partner, the person I trusted with the money. Cipher Shield's rise and I endured countless restless nights in a tiny office, while I focused on innovation. We lived off coffee and takeout, investing everything into starting this company. I trusted him. I let him handle things I didn't care about, which, I now realize, gave him the ability to deceive me. And Olivia? Before Cipher Shield, she was the love of my life, the person I thought would always stand by me. We struggled to pay rent together, and when the company finally became a billion-dollar firm, we celebrated with cheap wine and laughter. She was my pillar of strength. Now she was standing next to the man who had once whispered in my ear that I was destined for greatness. I reached for the papers, not because I needed to read them. I already knew what they said. But the betrayal. The betrayal hadn't happened overnight. It had been methodical, a slow, calculated game, and I had been blind to it. The late-night meetings, Olivia said, were about business acquisitions, the boardroom votes, the way Liam started suggesting I take a vacation to let others handle the business side while I focused on development. They tricked me, piece by piece, and I fell straight into their trap. "Perhaps you shouldn't have left school," Olivia mused, crossing her arms, her tone laced with condescension. The same condescension she used to protect me from when others doubted me. I forced a smile and looked up at her. "Perhaps you shouldn't have underestimated me," she chuckled, shaking her head. "You don't understand, do you? It was a vote cast by everyone." She tapped the documents. "And if you even think about contesting this, our lawyers will make sure you leave with nothing. Nothing at all." That was the real message. Liam leaned in, his voice dripping with arrogant amusement. "This must be awful," he sneered. "Losing everything. To me." I didn't respond right away. Instead, I leaned back in my chair, pretending to read the documents while my brain worked. They thought they had won, that they had taken everything from me. But there was one thing neither of them knew, one thing they never saw coming. Cipher Shield had been my life's work. Years of coding, designing, perfecting the most powerful encryption system on the market, and, deep within the system, I had left something. A vulnerability. One so deeply embedded it would take months, maybe years, before they even noticed it. I glanced at my laptop, still sitting on the desk next to me. They hadn't thought to log me out of the company's internal systems. Amateurs. Casually, I opened it, entered my final command. All it took was one keystroke. The script activated instantly, a contingency plan I had coded months ago. No, it wouldn't destroy Cipher Shield. That would be too obvious, too easy. Instead, tiny, imperceptible flaws would begin appearing in their encryption software. Clients would report minor bugs. Support teams would blame configuration errors, but over time, those errors would snowball into catastrophic failures. Banks, governments, corporations, their most sensitive data, once thought impenetrable, would begin to crack, and Cipher Shield, Liam and Olivia's prize, would burn. I hit enter, shut the laptop, and looked up. Olivia and Liam were still reveling in their victory. They had no idea. I stood, picking up the small cardboard box holding the last remnants of my office, Old notes, workplace photos, insignificant items. As I walked past them, Liam smirked, oozing arrogance. "This must really hurt," he said, feigning sympathy. "Leaving empty-handed, losing everything you built." I paused at the door, turned slightly, met his gaze with calm certainty. "Savor it while it lasts." His smirk faltered. I didn't wait for a reply. I left the office, stepping into the sunlight. The air felt too bright, the world too loud. To everyone else, I was just another executive being cast aside. But I wasn't broken. I wasn't defeated. By the time they realized what had happened, it would be too late. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Mason," I answered, keeping my voice steady. "They're gutting R&D." Mason's voice was tense. "They fired half the team this morning, mostly the ones loyal to you. Liam takes full control next week." I gripped the steering wheel with my free hand. "Good," I murmured. Mason hesitated. "Good?" "It means they still don't understand what they've taken." A slow smirk crept across my lips. "If they're cutting people this fast, they won't even notice what's missing until it's too late." Cypher Shield prided itself on security, encryption, state-of-the-art firewalls. But the software I designed was light years ahead of the competition, the kind of thing governments relied on to keep their most critical data safe. And now, it had a fatal flaw, not a bug, not a virus, a fault. By design, they thought they had taken my company, but they had no idea. They had stolen a ticking time bomb. I started the car and drove to my apartment, a small, efficient space, a far cry from the penthouse Olivia and I once shared. That was hers now, too, part of the divorce settlement she had planned long before. I even saw it coming, but that didn't matter. What mattered was that they hadn't touched my laptop, and on that laptop were my kill switches, my back doors, my insurance policy. By the time they realized they needed me, I would be 10 steps ahead. I leaned back in my chair, exhaled slowly. The first domino had been set, and all I had to do was wait for them to knock it over. My phone buzzed again. "Mason." "What's the plan?" I stared at the screen for a moment before replying. "We build something better." A pause. Then another message. "Where do we start?" I smirked. I already knew. Cypher Shield was a sinking ship, but the market still needed what I had created. And before Liam and Olivia even realized what had happened, I was going to fill that gap. They thought they had taken everything from me. They had no idea. They had just given me an advantage. I stood, rolling the tension from my shoulders. The night was still young, and I had work to do. I poured a glass of whiskey, raised it to the screen. "Let's see how long you last, Cypher Shield." Then I got back to work. They'll likely hunt for an alternative, and we'll be prepared. Isabella sighed and combed her hair. "Oh, right. I'm in." Mason nodded. "You already know I'm in." Leo smirked, screwing the cap back onto his drink. "How could I know that?" Clara observed me for a long time before eventually reclining in her chair. "Over Cypher Shield, I'll take care of recruiting, outreach, investors, and scheduling meetings. But we need money. We need a base of operations. And I promised that we would receive everything Cypher Shield has, without corruption, because we're creating a movement that embodies what Cypher Shield was meant to be. Not simply a business, but a vision. A vision that Olivia and Liam twisted into a corporate graveyard." Pause. Then, one by one, they reached out, piling their hands on top of mine in the center of the table. "Let's do this." This wasn't just revenge anymore. This was war. And I wasn't simply going to win, I was going to wipe them from the industry, totally. The days that followed were a storm of relentless motion. There was no time for hesitation, no room for second-guessing. Every minute mattered. Every action had a purpose. And Olivia and Liam? They believed they were securing their empire, tightening their grip on Cypher Shield. But my crew and I were already preparing for their collapse. I worked through the night refining Quantum Sentinel, strengthening the architecture, adjusting the encryption layers, ensuring that upon launch, it would be an impenetrable fortress. A fortress cipher shield could never hope to match. Each keystroke was a step forward. Fingers moved across the keyboard, pounding out line after line of code. An algorithm, a foundation, a weapon. Then, seemingly on cue, I received the message I had been waiting for. My phone buzzed. Midnight. I didn't have to look to know who it was. Mason. They had just attempted to use the system with their first significant client. I let the words sink in. Then, slowly, a grin tugged at the corner of my lips. I clicked my laptop open, pulling up the real-time security stream of CipherShield's internal servers. When they forced me out, they should have revoked my access. They didn't. That was their first mistake. With a few keystrokes, I bypassed their back-end authentication. Less than a minute later, I was in, watching the chaos unfold in real time. As planned, their encryption system was malfunctioning, not a full system crash, not something that would immediately raise alarms. No, it was subtle, devious, brilliant. Decryption sequences were unstable. Security certificates were corrupted. Clients began reporting sporadic failures. At first, small glitches, locked files, encrypted documents refusing to open. But soon, these minor inconveniences would snowball. Within hours, entire databases would become unreadable. And CipherShield? They wouldn't be able to fix it. Because the only person who had the knowledge to repair their failing system was sitting in a dimly lit apartment, watching it all unfold, whiskey in hand. Mason messaged me again. Their stock price is already tanking. I exhaled. Then Liam called an emergency meeting. Olivia was panicking. I switched tabs, pulled up the stock market feed. CipherShield